So please join me in welcoming Mr. Todd Cummings to help take us home. Todd is our Vice President of R&D.
Thanks, Scott. Hi, everybody. You don't know how much fun this is for me right now. There's a couple of things I know that I want to share with you. This is like the last thing before you leave. The only thing standing between you and home is me and my 83 points, my 83 slide PowerPoint. Love that. Additionally, y'all just ate a lot of cake. I'm going to be standing up here watching this. Thank you. This is after this, I'll be off the stage. Just before that happens, I want to thank you for your participation, for your passion, your verve, for your honesty and your authenticity in your sharing. It helps us so much to know what's going on for you in your job, in your role, in your Adept role, in your Adept superhero championship role, what's going on in your company with Adept, how we can help. And part of what I want to do today is share with you our roadmap, which I really see as it's a many-faceted activity for me. It's one of my favorite things. It's also at times a little scary. It's a way where I get to represent to you how we're going to help, what we're going to do to give back, to keep Adept going and growing, so to speak. It's also an opportunity when I get to speak on behalf of, I don't know, what are we, 24, really, well, the entire organization, obviously, but specifically in software development and release, 24-ish. Super talented, super committed, super hardworking folk. They're the folks behind the scenes who work very, very hard to make Adept great for you. You had an opportunity to meet some of our team over the course of the past couple of days. The rest of our team is at home working on the next incremental release of 2018, which we're going to talk about in a moment. The folks that were here today, I think there were 9 of us or so, we spent this morning in an exploration, a little bit of an adventure and an exploration of a different way of getting feedback. In the past, what we've done is handed out questionnaires and got a lot of questions and a lot of individual line items and features and asked you to rate them and prioritize and so on and so forth. And we wanted to try something a little different this time. So thank you for going on that adventure with us. The 9 or 10 of us at this afternoon, when you started with the afternoon sessions, we actually were in a different part of the hotel, writing out sticky notes and putting them up on the wall and starting to prioritize and talk about what did we hear? What did we actually hear? What was the feedback we got? And are there things that are actionable from that? And how do we want to continue to talk about it? So thank you very much. I was super impressed, and as always, when I get with the team, people were just really, really interested in making sure we captured what you had to share with us. So thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. We're going to talk about some things today. Some of it's going to be real accurate. Some of it's going to not be so accurate. The more accurate stuff will be what's happening soonest. Makes sense? The further out we get in the timeline, well, things can get dynamic, right? And I hope that's a good thing for you. It means, although we look out into the future and we can see where we'd like to go, life happens, right? Priorities change. And so we give ourselves the permission to be flexible. And we believe that's a good thing. We hope it's a good thing. And if you don't think so, you'll certainly share your opinion with us. We're open to that. I want to talk briefly about strategic initiatives. I'm not going to dwell on these, but I do want you to know that when we think about capabilities based on feedback, based on our hopes and dreams and desires for our baby, right, our platform, we look at capabilities and your feedback through different lenses. So right now we're going to put on the user experience lens. This is important. And we believe we heard some feedback around user experience today. So this is going to be a topic that, again, we embrace, and we're in a process, as you're aware, of developing our new browser-based delivery, value delivery mechanisms, Explorer, Reviewer, and Creator. So user experience is really top of mind for us. The types of things that color this lens are things like look and feel, the picks and clicks, right? What else? Cohesive and intuitive application elements. Do things look and feel similar? Are they consistent? Are the buttons in the right place? We got actually some feedback about that. Some of the dialogues that we have today are a little confusing. They don't seem to follow the pattern. Great feedback. That's user experience, obviously. Ease of use. One of the hallmarks that we kept near and dear as we developed the new browser clients are, how easy is it for people who don't know a thing about Adept to use? Can they get in Explorer and know what to do? Can they figure it out? And if they got some lightweight training, could they come back 2 weeks later and do what they were trained to do? Right? These are things we think about, and it's important to us. So we want to know from you how we're doing in that regard. Let's keep going. Ease of learning and retention, talked about that. Snappiness is a big one. So how does it respond? How does the application respond? And some of the things we're doing for 2019 relate directly to snappiness, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Performance and scalability. You're growing. You're growing and you are federating yourselves as customers, right? You're spread out all across the globe. We need to be able to handle that as you conduct your business. So this is a major strategic initiative for us. How does the app scale? How does it perform under load? Can we fail gracefully and recover quickly? Are we scaling as you grow incrementally, but also as you grow exponentially? That's an important thing. For us, that kind of has to start at the atomic level. If we're going to scale for you as you grow users, we have to think in a scalable way when we code and when we put things together. Business process automation intelligence. This is, put differently, workflow reporting, visual reporting, dashboards, that kind of thing. So enhanced workflow capabilities. We heard a lot about that last year. We heard some more about that this year. We did some, in my view, exciting design on workflow capabilities. Earlier in this calendar year, in the spring of 2018, we did some great design on that. We're looking for the correct release to position that in, but we have some strong ideas about ways to address feedback that you've provided us in the past about that. Reporting and visual reporting. I remember 2 years ago when Chris Wood from Dow presented the dashboards that he put in place to demonstrate value to Dow management, and everybody in the room just went, ooh. And I went, oh. So we actually, we had some initiatives last year. We looked into some, a team of us across development, QA, and product management. We interviewed, I think, 4 different visual reporting solution vendors. We did some R&D type projects. So cool stuff on the horizon, and we'll talk more about that as it relates to timeline. Seamless business system interoperability. You got to listen to our dear South African colleague not too long ago. That was a wish list for many, many years. We addressed that with Adept Integrator, but there are also additional things that we look to when we think about that. All right. Application, data, and identity security. Top of mind for IT these days, right? And rightfully so. So we look at, this is important. It's as important now as it has ever been and will continue to be important. Kathy and I were just talking at the break. Security of data at rest, security of data in transit, security of data from all the different types of solutions that we have, all the different in between components. We actually did a tremendous amount of work in security in our between our visualization tool, our web client, and our business logic server in 2018. We don't really talk about that as a feature. It's kind of an unseen thing, but we re-architected that completely and tightened it up tremendously. So we're thinking behind the scenes to make sure that your data is safe and secure. Another thing that's coming up a lot is single sign-on SAML compatibility. We're actually really fortunate to be working closely in the final stages, hopefully, of putting something together with both a longtime client and a potential new division at that client to bring SAML authentication to the solution. We're excited to be partnering up with that. And I'll talk more about that later, too. It's fun to partner with our customers to work toward things that are mutually important and to accelerate timelines on things that are particularly relevant at any given time in a customer's adoption and evolution of the solution. Multi-factor authentication, that's another big one these days, right? How can we, I know you told me you were Steve, but are you really Steve? Wait, let me text you so that I can be absolutely positively sure you're Steve. Yes, oh, you appear to be Steve, so I'll let you in. That kind of thing. Okay, mobility and cloud services. I think we'll see, we put time and effort, sincere time and effort, into making Adept Explorer, Adept Review, and Adept Creator context aware when users use them on tablets. It's extra development time to do that. The reality is, what you've told us and what we've understood and what we're in the process of embracing and bringing to bear is that native apps really work better in those environments. So we're taking a good hard look at that, and we're in the process of prioritizing them, as you'll see in a moment. So that's mobility and cloud services. And of course, bread and butter for years and years and years for our solution is CAD integration and support. So this is an interesting topic. As you're aware, and if you're not, let me take a moment to restate. We have been in the process of refactoring, re-engineering our CAD integrations. They are now standalone applications that talk directly to our web services architecture. They're not really web applications, but they're not really fully desktop applications either. They're kind of hybrid. They play well in both environments. And this was a necessary step for us in terms of making our CAD applications perform better, making them more scalable, more snappy. It's also a key initiative for us in our ease of standing up new CAD integrations. So I am aware that some of you have been anxiously awaiting additional CAD integrations. Don? MicroStation. So we have wish list CAD integrations. MicroStation, Revit is a popular one. Project file-based CAD integrations such as Plant 3D, so on and so forth. These are things that you have made us aware that you're very interested in seeing us support. We needed to get to this new model of standing these up so that we could not only integrate with them in a better way, but do it more cost-effectively and deliver a higher quality product to you. So this process we're going through right now that started with the SOLIDWORKS 2018 task pane that we just released and will continue with our Autodesk 2019 integrations set in motion a whole new era of us being able to more quickly bring new and varied CAD integrations to market. So we hope that means good things for you. It's certainly one of the reasons why we're taking the time, a little bit extra time, to make sure that we can do this. All right. Now I want to talk a little bit. So those are the lenses. We take a look at a feature, we say, usability, no, maybe, security, yes, absolutely, security. Oh, scalability. So it's a little bit of alchemy. I'd like to say it's some science, some art, some best judgment, and hopefully a lot of conversations with you folks, as well as business imperatives, right? Always important. So that gives you an idea of the lenses we look through. Now, I want to shift gears a little bit and saying, okay, here's some of the criteria that we evaluate when you ask us to consider adopting a feature. And I want to kind of share with you where we are now and where we're heading with regard to our current trajectory or strategy, you could say. So in order to do that, we have to go back a little bit, and then we'll accelerate forward. So we just released Adept 2018, as you're aware. It's exciting. It's a vision it's a vision that started, I don't know, in the early 2000s and was resynthesized and sort of put in motion, I'd say late 2014, believe it or not. And that culminated, we didn't start work on it right away, but we hatched this vision, and we sort of took care of it as it gained life and gained birth. And our first external release of that was in Adept 2017. And so from a logical perspective, prior to Adept 2017, the release prior to that was Adept 2015. We had the desktop client. We had a version of Adept Explorer, a version of Adept Reviewer, and we had our task pane integrations. And I think if you thought about it in this perspective, you would understand that our least functional client is Adept Explorer. Our next most functional client is Adept Reviewer. And then we had our task panes, which are really pretty functional, but not as functional as the desktop client. So in 2017, we completely rewrote, in the course of probably 14 or 16 months, we rewrote on a brand new technology stack, Adept Explorer and Adept Reviewer. All new tech, all new presentation, and that's what we released in 2017. So we built on that in 2018, and we said, okay, we need to fill this gap between Reviewer and the desktop client. That's where Creator fits. And it's time for us to take the next logical step forward and teach all this new plumbing how to do task pane. Because task pane's really pretty smart, but still not as smart as the desktop client. So this new wave of task panes is now the next level of integration in our new plumbing. So what comes next? Right? What's next after that? We're taking care of the task panes now. Next logical step is to continue to teach an edition or a version of the browser client how to be smarter still. So what types of things are next? We've actually accomplished a tremendous amount in a relatively short amount of time, considering that our native offering, desktop client, server, and older technology, task pane, so on and so forth, they've been around and in play for, what, 25 plus years? A long time, right? And it's just been about 3 or 4 years. This 2018 has been about 3 years or so, maybe a little more in the making. So we've covered a tremendous amount of ground in a very short amount of time. So what's next is important value-added capabilities that are currently available in the desktop being made available in the web client. Critical things like transmittal capability. When we do that, we'll have to tackle reporting as well. We'll use a similar toolkit for that. Sharing, very important. And as I think I may have made a commitment to somebody the other night, Dawn, library sets, for example. So these kinds of things that the current web client doesn't support, that's really next for 2019. And beyond that, once we get to 2020, this will complete a cycle, the first iteration cycle of the strategy that we ideated all those years ago, almost 5 years ago now, and set in motion. And in 2020, we will have the ability for you to take advantage of an all new administrative experience. We're in the process now of conversations about what that's going to look like. Core capabilities of our browser enhanced. And I'm hopeful at this time that when it comes to 2020, either at that release or shortly thereafter, the next value-added release after that, we're going to go after some really core, exciting, fundamental stuff that we've been anxious to get to for a very long time. For example, one of the things I'm fantasizing about and have been for years is, how are we going to re-envision the data card? What's that going to mean? What are all the kick-butt capabilities we're going to put in that data card? Just look. Actually, I really thought about half of you would be sleeping by now, but you're doing really well. Thank you for that. Is my energy okay? Because I ate some cake too. Am I doing all right? All right. So things like data card, as I mentioned, really, we've got these designs for really nifty workflow enhancements ready to go, right? We want to get these capabilities all under sort of the new web services umbrella, and then we can start making these fundamental changes that we've really been excited about for a long time. So I wanted to, with this slide, kind of show you where we are today, how we got here, maybe a little bit of the why we got here. You may remember, if not, I'll remind you. We started this journey because you folks wanted better performance. And it wasn't just wanted, your users require better performance. And I actually heard some of that feedback today from different tables that we worked with this morning. People came back and said, better performance, better performance. I expect that we'll still hear that. And I expect that your users will still ask you for better performance until you migrate yourselves into the Adept Creator, the new task panes, and so on and so forth. This is the time now that from here on forward where better performance is going to become less of a request because it's performing the way you want it to, the way your users expect it to, okay? Now, I'll go from the sort of strategic and the higher level arc, and I want to pull it back to more tactical. This is the stuff that's going to be, the stuff that I'm sharing with you now will be more accurate. Where are we, and really what's next? Okay? Well, so the baseline is when we released 2018. We have a 2018.1, and as I mentioned yesterday morning, we're not 100% sure. There's a big verb for us to call it a feature pack. It's not a service pack in the traditional sense. Yes, we are fixing some issues. There'll be some polishes. There's a lot of value in this FP1, if you will, in .1. And that's the new release of all the AutoCAD integrations. Also, critically, we're adding more features that users currently enjoy in the desktop clients to the web clients. Specifically, auto name, required fields, and publish wave printing on event. Those are going to be in Feature Pack 1 or 2018.1. Okay? Now, we made some hard decisions about our initial 2018 release, and we didn't include these, and we knew there would be requests. And we have gotten requests. And we're also really challenging ourselves to ensure that we can provide your web client users with the same institutional controls that your desktop users enjoy, right? And of course, fixes and polishes. Now, I should mention, and this is, I think, important, what you don't see up here, but what you will all be notified of relatively soon, is that the team is putting the final wrap on what we're calling Update 1. And Update 1 is going to be available in the next few weeks. And Update 1 is kind of a roll-up of a couple of issues that came in, early issues that came in from the field, and some issues that we wanted to button up in 2018. So Update 1, 2018 Update 1 will be available in the next couple of weeks, and it will essentially take the place of the initial release of Adept. It'll be the new baseline 2018 release. So that's Update 1. And that's not up here, but I just wanted to let you folks know that that's coming down the pike. Okay. Now moving on in time, we're still pretty accurate here as far as we know today. 2018.2 or Feature Pack 2. This is a candidate for CAD integration updates. We've got, we'll be picking up SolidWorks 2019 certainly by then. We may have some other ones available. We'll have to see. It's also possible at this point in time, provided everything goes smoothly now with our SAML authentication initiative. SAML authentication won't be available for Feature Pack 1, but you could well see it in Feature Pack 2, which we're really excited about. Single sign-on for both desktop and web clients using your company's authentication provider. Enhanced HTTPS support. We had an R&D initiative, and this is sort of Bill likes to call them bench projects. This was a bench project that Bill was working on. We had in our minds that it was going to, that enhanced HTTPS support was going to require a certain technological path, and it turns out that he actually looks like he found a way to bend the space-time continuum, and we get to perhaps make this capability available quicker and easier and perhaps even more stable than we thought before. So if that indeed happens, we're going to make that available as well. This will help. This will help in many ways, and of course fixes and polishes should the need arise. Okay. Now let's talk about 2019. So 2019, the release date, we're still in some final discussions around exactly when that will be. For now, we'll loosely call it Q4 of next year. That's not a commitment, but it is certainly one very strong possibility at this point in time. One of the interesting things about 2019 is it's going to have already a web client UI refresh. So the framework that we use to build the web client requires us to upgrade it, if you will. And we're going to do that. And while we do it, while we upgrade those underpinnings, we're actually going to focus on a web client user interface API. We have the web services now, but that's not the same as making the web client UI customizable. So picture, if you will, those of you who are familiar with or using custom programming or apps in your organization, envision a similar mechanism for customizing a user's Adept Creator experience. That's what that capability is about. So these kind of go hand in hand, and this is the pivotal capability for the 2019 web-based release. The other thing that we're looking hard at is the possibility of native mobile apps. I think this is something we're not completely finalized on, but has a strong chance of coming to fruition. And we will stand these up and make these available in the same way. They'll work the same way as the web clients. They'll work the same way as the task panes. They're going to be talking to the web services API. All of those capabilities are already developed in other presentations, right? So now what we would want to do is make a native iOS, native Android app, and make those really sing on a tablet for you. And if any of you have a verve around phones, I'd like you to reach out to me or reach out to the product management team. Phones, I get they're ubiquitous, and it's a lot of data, so I'd love to hear your ideas about how we can provide a really relevant experience for your users in that small of a form factor. And if we don't hear from you, we may reach out and tap you anyway, because we really want to know what that's going to be like in your organization. Web client, as I mentioned earlier, transmittal capabilities. This is going to be big. It's going to be interesting. A lot of you folks use the transmittal capabilities. A lot of you use it for things in your organization that aren't really transmittals traditionally, right? Work packets or documentation packets, those kinds of things. So it's a super utilitarian capability, and we're looking forward to getting that in the browser client for you. And then there are roughly, say, 15 to 30 smaller capabilities, but also very critical library sets, sharing, these types of things. We'll get that in the browser client as well. And fixes and polishes, of course. So what I've tried to provide you, and what I hope you've seen, I have a 2020 slide here. This is the fidelity of the information on this slide. This is where we start to get further out, and it's we're not 100% sure yet. But the crystal ball says these are the kinds of things we could see in 2020. A new admin experience, core enhancements, potentially. It's at this point in time, and we don't know exactly when this is, but you've got to figure in the 2 to 4 year range. It's possible, as I mentioned yesterday morning, one of the questions that was asked is when do the web clients become equally as functional as the desktop client? We don't know exactly, but it's coming. It's coming. And when we get to that point, we may reach the period in time where we say, at that point in time, the desktop client will be available in its current form for, say, another period of time, maybe another major release or something like that. And after that, the path forward will be in the web client delivery. So it's possible that there will come a day, in fact, it's likely, that the desktop client will, after which the desktop client will no longer be supported. Okay? It's not today, it's not next year, it's probably not the following year, but sometime in the not so distant future, especially since time flies. Anybody else notice that? How quickly time? I know I'm getting more stripes, or as I get older, time goes faster and faster. So 4 years we're going to be having this conversation in 4 years, and we'll say, where did that go? Okay, so that's what 2020 is looking like today, and we'll be in that vicinity. Okay. You folks sent us some pre-conference feedback, and we appreciate that. So I want to blend that into the conversation as I wrap up today and before I take your questions. When can we expect single sign-on? Great question. Thank you for asking. I'm hoping it's in Feature Pack 2, which is roughly end of Q2 next year. We're working on that, as I mentioned, in partnership with a customer. It's really fun to do that. I mentioned that as well. If you have something that's a pet feature that is highly valuable for your organization, like MicroStation, let's have that conversation. Let's partner up. When will the web client function with CP? That, as you heard, is a 2019 feature. Right? We're tackling that. The team has done some R&D, and we got our first internal demonstrations of that a couple of weeks ago. We were pretty jazzed. There's a lot between here and making that commercially available, but we're excited about it. Is the web software available as an app? Great question. I think, as you heard, not yet. It is available for use, and it is aware of users using it on a tablet device, but it's not iOS or Android native at this point. We're looking seriously at that for 2019. Will offline viewing ever be supported? Also a great question. I would love to get offline viewing, personally speaking. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. Don't quote me on this. I'm being videoed, right? Okay, great. I would love to see offline viewing get addressed at the same time we make it as available as an app. That would really make sense, wouldn't it? It's kind of like peanut butter and jelly. So I'm hopeful that we'll get that ironed out. We have some hurdles, but we haven't shied from those before. So my sense is we'll probably figure it out. And are there any new updates coming soon? Well, you know the answer. In the next couple of weeks, update 1 will be made available. Some of you will choose to adopt it, some of you may not. And shortly thereafter, in the first part of Q1 of the next calendar year, .1 or Feature Pack 1 will be available, and that's got a fair amount of really cool value for your company and your users. So, thank you for answering our call for your information ahead. And we wanted to honor your effort by answering some of your questions here. Before I close, I want to ask you, are there any questions based on what I've said today? Anything you'd like to talk about while we have this opportunity? Apparently. Yeah. Well, we all know I'm never speechless. Okay, great. So a final farewell from the big stage. I'll be here and shaking your hand on the way out, but thank you again for your participation. We really, really appreciate it. And I'm going to turn the podium back over to Scott, who's going to share with you where experience is next year, among some other things. So all I'll say is make sure you pack your long underwear, and we'll see you next year.